I'm speechless. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. I just got done seeing Annihilation and wow. That's all I can say. I was so surprised by this movie. I went into this knowing very little. I'd seen the trailer a while ago and didn't know a whole lot about it. I listened to a podcast episode with Natalie Portman, but that didn't really talk about Annihilation all that much. They kind of just talked about like her life and stuff. But I was still really intrigued to see this because it felt like not as alien kind of a movie, sci-fi movie, as Arrival, and I loved Arrival so much. It was one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years. So I was very intrigued to see what this movie was going to be all about. And I was not let down. It exceeded my expectations. I went in kind of low expectations because I hadn't really heard bad things about it, but I had heard some great things about it. I went in kind of not knowing what to think. And like I said, really exceeded my expectations. But I think I should just get into it instead of just rambling on. So first off, this is a sci-fi horror movie. It doesn't seem like it would be a horror movie, but it actually is just a very heady horror movie. It really makes you think about like life and biology and like just I'm still processing it. Like I literally got home 5 minutes ago, sat down to start recording. Oh wow. It's such a great movie. I mentioned that I thought it was very similar to Arrival just from the trailers. To me, the beats feel very similar to that of Arrival. It's not the same story, but it hits the same moments. It does kind of similar things. It plays with time a little bit, both in the story and just in the film itself, like editing wise, which I actually thought was really cool because you don't really get the sense of how long they're in what's called the shimmer, and you don't, in the story, you don't know either, because at the beginning, Oscar Isaac's character is in there for supposedly a year, but they don't know officially how long he was in there according to him, or how long he felt like he was in there. They kind of do the same thing throughout the storyline. They jump around to different points. It kind of breaks up the story of what happens in the shimmer a little bit, which is okay, but there's some parts that just didn't feel connected. I take that back, actually. I think I would compare it to a more sciencey, biology-based Aliens meets Arrival kind of thing. I mean, there's not a whole lot of like fighting well, there is a little bit of fighting monsters going on, but it's not as intense as Aliens, but it does have that just like tension that Alien and Aliens has that is really great, and one of the reasons why I love those movies as horror movies just as much as I love them as sci-fi and action movies. So I really loved the fact that they incorporated that into this movie as well. And then it had that very suspenseful feel that I love from Arrival, where you don't really know exactly how it's going to end, but you're putting the pieces together as you go along with the protagonist. It's told in slightly different ways, but it feels kind of the same in a way, but different in the same way, if that makes any sense. And not to mention, the cast in this is pretty killer. Oscar Isaac at the beginning is super creepy and weird, and you find out later on why, because you do get his story of what happens to him within the shimmer. And I'm kind of an iffy fan of Natalie Portman, but she did so good in this. Like, it's not like she's going to be winning an Oscar or nominated for an Oscar for this. She really got into her character, and it was just so like intense. This movie is really intense. There's a scene at the end, like kind of the last maybe third of the movie is probably my favorite part of this, because it's where you're getting to like the climax of the movie and you're really figuring out what this shimmer thing is and how it's all like working. And there's just this really cool scene that Natalie Portman has that's just like really intense, and you kind of see her figuring out what she needs to do. Gina Rodriguez is in this, and of course she is phenomenal. I don't think she's ever been bad in anything. You can kind of see her start to go a little crazy towards the middle of the movie, and like she just does a phenomenal job at portraying like just the intensity of what this place is doing to all of them. And the fact that the main group that you were following through this whole thing is a group of 5 really strong and smart women just makes this even cooler. I wasn't surprised by that because they show it in the trailer, but speechless again. I'm so speechless just thinking about how amazing this movie is, and I probably haven't given myself enough time to process, but I wanted to kind of get my thoughts out before they were gone, even though I have them written down. Sometimes I can't read my writing, but I just would probably forget everything that I wanted to say. So I'm trying my best to process all of this while talking to you guys. And now probably my favorite couple parts of this whole film is the way it looks and the story. In The Shimmer, it just looks so beautiful. It looks like a fantasy sci-fi land. You've seen it in the trailer, and it looks just as amazing when you're just kind of going through it along with the team. And they use the kind of shimmer, like they call the whole ecosystem the shimmer, but they call it that because of like the surrounding borders of it, I guess, are very shimmery and they reflect light, and that plays into the story, which I'm not going to talk about because it is kind of a spoiler. But the shimmery kind of outsideness reflects on any reflective surfaces, especially water and within people's eyes. There's a scene when they first walk in and they're kind of looking around. Actually, it's before that. It's when Natalie Portman first gets to the base. She's looking at the shimmer and it's reflected in her eyes, and they're not that close to it. They're probably like at least a mile away from it. And it just, you can see it reflecting in her eyes. And that also plays into another part of the story that I'm not going to spoil. The way they incorporate the shimmer into reflective surfaces, especially water. The scene that they show in the trailer where the girl gets like dragged into the shack, they reflect the water with the shimmer. It makes it look kind of like an oil spill a little bit, but it also is just so beautiful and radiant. And they reflect the water on the sand in the beach, and when they're like paddling through a pond thing, lake, whatever, swamp. It looks so beautiful, and there's like, oh, it just looks so cool. I just can't get over how pretty this looks. It looked really great in the trailers, and I can't wait to see what the cover art will be for this when it's released on Blu-ray and DVD. I bet it's gonna look so beautiful. Like the credits were this like cool psychedelic thing that kind of blended in with the shimmer border thing, and that was super cool, and I really hope that they incorporate that into the box art. I really enjoyed the story of this as well. I mean, there were some parts of the story that could have been balanced out a little bit better, but as I usually do when I see a movie, I was eating popcorn and I got so sucked into the story that I just completely forgot about the popcorn and stopped eating. So I had like a full bag of popcorn by the time I got out of this movie. So that kind of tells you how much the story just pulls you in. Even if there's parts that need to be trimmed, you still are just sucked into it, and you want to know what's going to happen next. You want to find out what all of this is. And the cool thing about this is the ending leaves it kind of open-ended, like they may have a sequel or something. Okay, quick pause for just a second. I didn't have a chance to record a video portion for this, so please enjoy this nice little image that I have up here that goes along with what I'm going to be talking about. While I was pulling a thumbnail image for this video, I actually realized or found out more that this
movie was adapted from a novel, or a trilogy actually, and this probably will end up having a sequel or be part of a trilogy because there is a trilogy of books. Now, I didn't go very far into researching if this one movie is based on all 3 novels or if this is just based on the first one, which is Annihilation, and they're going to have 2 other movies in this series. So fingers crossed, and you can disregard the rest of this. I just thought you guys would maybe be interested in hearing my thought about certain parts that I thought may be part of a trilogy or a sequel. Alright, back to the actual video.
Kind of, if you saw Life earlier last year, they leave it a little bit open-ended, and you're like, oh, maybe there's going to be a second one, which that movie did not do very well. It wasn't the best movie. It was like I was trying to be Alien, but you kind of feel like there's going to be another one, and I kind of would like to see what they would do with this if it was turned into a series. I think it would be kind of an interesting thing. The way it ends, I would love to see a second movie to this. I think it would be very interesting, especially since there is one part that they did not talk about, and it really is bothering me. And it's so small and insignificant that I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't even notice it. They mention it very briefly, but they don't really turn it into anything. But they do turn it into something, but they don't mention it. I wonder if it's I kind of wonder if it's a deleted scene, but I feel like it'd be something pretty big. I don't know if I want to mention what it is, because I feel like it would be a slight spoiler. So now my score for this. As I said before, I am very intrigued to see what the box art would be for the DVD and Blu-ray, and I really enjoyed this movie so much that it made me speechless. And the last time I was left speechless in a movie like this was Dunkirk, because it was just so awe-inspiring. But a movie that made me think this much when I left the theater just in awe of the beauty and the story was Arrival. I have not really wanted to watch a movie again to see just the beauty of it for no other reason than the fact that it's just so beautiful. And there's so many things that probably I could pick at to open up to something bigger that, again, they don't really talk about. I definitely 100% would add this to my collection. I absolutely love this movie. It's probably not a full 5 stars, probably a 4.5, but I really enjoyed this and would in a heartbeat. Maybe not the day it's released, but the first couple weeks or so, especially at Target when the week of release is on sale. This is definitely a movie worth watching again and again and again. But those are all of my thoughts, and I would love to know yours, as always, in the comments down below. Actually, if you want to have a discussion about it, there is going to be a Stardust reaction to this movie on my Stardust, also in the description down below, and leave me a comment on there what you think about it as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you, whoever you are. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking movies and TV shows and filmmaking and film history and all of that fun stuff, and I hope you guys stick around, and I'll see you next time. Bye!